Hey friends, today we're going to do a video. I don't really know how this is going to go, but we're going to talk about Amberlynn Reid and BPD. I'm actually a mental health support worker and I've worked with a lot of people with BPD over the years. And I have to say that Amberlynn definitely does have traits of this. But I want to make it clear that this isn't all people with BPD. We are specifically talking about Amberlynn before we start. I'm not excusing her behaviors for it or anything like that, but I'm going to do a video just looking into the BPD symptoms, what I see in Amberlynn, and we're going to talk about like how it has affected her long term in her life, in her relationships, and hopefully by the end of this video we'll have a bit more of a nuanced idea of Amberlynn's BPD and the things we can see outright in her videos. So welcome back to Devil's Advocate. I've just got over 100 subscribers. I'm really chuffed about that. And if this is something you're interested in, a channel you like, please consider subscribing and liking this channel. I would absolutely love to have you here. So let's begin. So Amberlynn Reid has been saying for a long time she's had undiagnosed BPD. She's talked about it many times. She's talked about the different symptoms she's getting and like her behaviors and stuff. And I just want to talk about that a little bit. So the first thing I want to talk about with BPD is unstable relationships. If you have BPD, you may feel other people abandon anxiety and anger. You may make frantic efforts to prevent left being alone, such as constantly texting or phoning a person, suddenly calling that person in the middle of the night, physically clinging on to that person and refusing to let go, making threats to harm or unalive yourself if that person leaves you. Now, we have seen many times, over and over again, Amberlynn Reid's videos and in her personal life, and from her exes, that she is constantly texting or phoning. She does not like them being left out of her sight. She does make threats to them if they are going to leave, and there's definitely a fear of abandonment there. She's even said it herself on several occasions. So this is all very interesting. Environmental factors. A number of environmental factors seem to be common widespread among people with BPD. This includes being a victim of emotional, physical, or sexual abuse, being exposed to long-term fear and distress as a child, being neglected by one or both parents, growing up with another family member who had a serious health condition such as bipolar or drink and drug problems. But we all know that Amber has talked about in the past that Mama Lynn has had drug and drink problems. Aunt Tammy has had alleged drug and drink problems. Amber herself, like, she gets addiction, so that's all there for sure. Symptoms of borderline personality disorder. The symptoms of BPD can be grouped into four main areas. Emotional instability, the psychological term for this affective dysregulation, disturbed patterns of thinking or perception, cognitive distortions or perceptual distortions, impulsive behavior, intense but unstable relationships with others. The symptoms of the personality disorder may range from mild to severe, usually emerging in adolescence and persisting into adulthood. Now, all of these ring true when it comes to Amberlynn, her specific BPD. She is very emotionally unstable, disturbed patterns of thinking and behavior. She jumps in to relationships, so she goes from relationship to relationship very quickly, without really thinking about the consequences for her and obviously her animals. And that is a very sure sign that the impulsivity she has is her own form of self-harm in these situations. She just the emotional instability and the lack of like thought before she jumps into these relationships, moves in with people she hardly knows, takes all her animals with her and things like that. That's all very sure sign that the BPD is there. Um, Again, I'm aware that she hasn't been diagnosed and that, this is all just what I'm seeing from what I've seen of her. And yeah, she seems to fall in love very, very quickly as well, fall in and out of love very, very quickly. And because of the lack of self esteem, she keeps these people in her life because of the abandonment factor. Causes of borderline personality disorder. The causes of BPD are unclear. BPD appears as a result of a combination of genetic and environmental factors. People with BPD come from many different backgrounds. Most have experienced some kind of trauma in their childhood. I 100% agree with that statement, and it's not all foster care kids, like, because there are plenty of people who haven't been in foster care that have BPD because of other experiences. But when you watch Amberlynn's videos, you can see she flips from mood to mood to mood. Like, she can flip her emotions very, very quickly, which is also a sign of the BPD. It's a defense mechanism of her emotions that she's had to develop over the years with everything she's been through with her family and her being in foster care. Frantic efforts to avoid abandonment, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships, unstable self-image, impulsivity, reoccurrent unaliving, harming behavior, affective instability, chronic feelings of emptiness, inappropriate and intense anger, paranoid ideation, and dissociative symptoms. So these are all very interesting because I feel like we've seen little bits of each of these from Amber, and we've heard her ex-partners talking about each individual like part of this. And I just want to also make it clear that self-harm doesn't necessarily mean what like you generally think it means, whether with hurting oneself physically. You can also hurt yourself emotionally, like, so jumping in and out of these relationships, knowing that they're not going to end well, is a form of self-harm. Binge eating is a form of self-harm. Impulsive shopping and gambling is a form of self-harm. So she is doing all this to herself. Like, I think deep down she knows when she jumps into these relationships with people she doesn't know that it's almost like she's setting it up to fail because she already knows it's going to fail. That makes sense. She's already gone in thinking it's gonna fail because that's how BPD people express boundaries in relationships. And I think that's why she manages to meet like someone like Emily, who is also abusive. Like, it already expects them to be that way, if that makes sense. It is like, it's all just how the brain for them works. Like, there's always going to be drama, there's always going to be something. Like, they're always set in their minds that everything's going to end badly, so they then get into situations where they subconsciously know that. A strong fear of abandonment. This includes going to extreme measures so you're not separated or rejected, even if these fears are made up. So yeah, so they'll talk themselves into thinking things are going to happen. A pattern of unstable, intense relationships, such as believing someone is perfect one moment and then suddenly believing that person doesn't care enough or is cruel the next. So we've also seen this in all of the relationships. Like, and she's come on, like, one minute she's totally in love with someone, the next minute she's slating them and can't stand them. Quick changes in how you see yourself. This includes shifting goals and values, as well as seeing yourself bad or as if you don't exist. So I don't think she really we don't really see that side of Amber where she's feeling bad. Periods of stress related paranoia and loss of contact with reality. These periods can last for a few minutes to a few hours. So we've heard from ex-partners that she will just like make something up in her head, like a problem. Threats of unaliving and self injury, often response fears and separation or rejection. So again, we've seen all this with the exes, we've seen all the text messages, all the phone calls, they've all said the same thing, that she won't leave them alone, she won't let them go out for 5 minutes. We just talked about the binge eating. We've talked about like how like she's jumping into relationships and she's madly in love 1 minute and then not in love the next, and thinks people dislike her, so therefore she will try and jump ahead and dislike them. It is like a constant cycle with BPD, and I have seen it myself with people that I work with, and it is very sad to see sometimes, like when they have like very little self-worth and end up in the wrong crowds of people, but also they can also be very manipulative themselves, and you can either be the best person in the world or the worst person in the world depending what they need from you at the time. Again, I'm not saying this about everybody with BPD. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own nuances when it comes to their mental health and BPD. And like not all of them are like Amber. There's quite a stigma for BPD as there is, which is a shame, because inside everybody with BPD there is just like they are lovely people. They all want the same thing, really. They want to just feel stable and to fit in, and they struggle with their emotions, and some people do let those emotions get the better of them. Wide mood swings that can last from a few hours to a few days. These mood swings can include periods of very happy, irritable, anxious, or feelings of shame. Now, with Amberlynn, I have seen all of these moods in different live streams and in her different vlogs and in different videos, and I think we all have as well. Ongoing feelings of emptiness, inappropriate strong anger, such as losing your temper often, being sarcastic or bitter, or physically fighting. So we have seen her get angry on her live streams, like just out of nowhere. She like it will be over like the smallest thing. Like they call them meltdowns. She's gonna have a meltdown on her live stream, but her meltdowns are actually like her defense mechanism trying to lash back at people who are putting her down. Youth and foster care. Increased prevalence. BPD is associated with the foster care system, and studies suggest that it's a valid construct for describing the complex psychopathology that can be present in youth in and out of home care. Now, I have definitely seen this. I've seen it with people I support that have like maybe not been in foster care, but maybe have lived with another relative or a friend of the family, or have lived on their own since they were quite young, who are estranged from their families, or I have seen all of that happen, and I've seen how they handle it. The next thing we're going to talk about is something that's been talked about more recently, I have seen, than before, like in Amberlynn's own group chat and in the reaction channel circuit, is Amberlynn mimicking people she knows. Like people are like, oh, they talk like she's talking like Alexis today, or she's talking like someone else today, and why is she putting on that accent and laugh? It's a BPD sign. Increased mimicry as a coping mechanism. Because of the fear of abandonment and feelings of exclusion, individuals with BPD may unconsciously increase mimicry. Feeling like a chameleon in some cases, their sense of self may be unstable, causing them to chameleon and adapt identity based on the people they are around. Now, in Geordie's last stream, he said about her laugh, and how she was laughing like her mum. And she has been spending a lot of time with her mum, so that would make total sense with that. And, people are saying, like, oh, she's talking to Alexis because she sounds like Alexis, or she's been talking to somebody else because she sounds like them. And this is, again, all a part of the BPD diagnosis. Soulmate connections. This increased mimicry can lead to a powerful but temporary sense of connection, especially in the early stages of a relationship, as a person mirrors their partner's qualities, leading to a feeling of a quote unquote soulmate bond. And we have seen this again and again with Amberlynn. Like when she was in the Crystal era, like people were saying like her voice was much softer and she seemed to like totally different things. In the Destiny era, she became more like Destiny. In the Beck era, she became more like Beck, etc., etc., like trying to fit in and establish their personalities. And this is very much what she has been doing, I imagine, for her whole life, to try and build connections with people. But it's obviously not a healthy way to do that. The next thing we're going to look at is splitting. It's something that Amberlynn brings up a lot. So we're going to look at the definitions of that and what traits of that we see in her own behaviours. So, what happens when a person BPD splits? Splitting serves as a defense mechanism for those with BPD, helping them to manage feelings of anxiety, fear, and uncertainty by categorizing experiences and people into good or bad boxes. It simplifies complex emotions and situations that might otherwise be overwhelming. And she's always says, like, you got to think in the grey and not the black and white, and she is right. But whether she's actually doing that or not, I'm not 100% sure on that, because yeah, she does seem to be very black and white about who she likes, who she doesn't like, who's in and who's out. And it's very important to remember that they do that. And if you are around people with BPD, just like try and make them self-aware of that they're doing it. I found that's quite a helpful tactic. Amberlynn also likes to blame her poor choices and her actions and everything on her BPD. She's always saying, like, it's because I have BPD, I do this and do that. I just want to make it clear that not all people with BPD use their BPD as an excuse. A lot of people are doing the work to get them back to a better place, and so they can have a stable life, more stable thinking. So not everybody does that, but some people do. Yes, it is common for some people with borderline personality disorder, particularly those who are untreated and a lack of self-awareness, to blame their behaviours on their BPD. This behaviour is often a defence mechanism to cope with intense shame, guilt, or fear of abandonment. So, if his shame and guilt is the reason she uses her BPD, then she obviously knows that some of her behaviours are unacceptable, but because of how her mind works, she's unable to vocalize that. And now she's definitely not going to, with everything that's been going on with the reaction channels and stuff. But yeah, it does seem to be how she is set up. Amberlynn recently said in a video that talking therapy doesn't work for her. And she got quite a lot of backlash for that, when people saying, well, you haven't even tried. But talking therapy does not work for everyone with borderline personality disorder, as a significant portion of people are not responding to current therapies. However, this is considered the most helpful form of treatment for the condition. And many people can and do recover with the right support. The key factors influencing effectiveness include the specific therapy type and the quality of the therapeutic relationship. So yeah, it definitely depends on the type of person you are, whether talking therapy works or not. I mean, I know it doesn't work for everybody. There are a lot of people who find it very helpful and useful to talk to somebody, and there are other people who can't do it. And here are the reasons why you might not cope with talking therapy. Non-response is a known issue. Studies show a larger percentage of people who do not respond to psychotherapy for BPD, and more research is needed to know why this happens and what treatments might be better. Challenges with certain symptoms. Some symptoms like fear, abandonment, intense relationships, and feelings of emptiness can be harder to change through therapy. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't other options for people who can't do talking therapy. In this day and age, there are lots of other ways to get help you need, like that's more catered to an individual rather than a group of people with a certain mental health condition. Yes, several other approaches besides traditional talking therapy can help people manage borderline personality. These include medication, alternative creative therapies, lifestyle adjustments, and self care strategies. So, Amber's on the medication, and we all know that. She talks about Zoloft a lot. So she's making a little bit of progress with that. She seems to think it's changing her mindset, which is obviously a good thing. It can be a mood stabilizer, antidepressant, antipsychotic. Medication is typically used as an adjunctive supportive treatment alongside other therapies and not as a standalone solution. So for Amber, yes, she's on the tablets, but she needs to find another outlet as well. These approaches are non-verbal ways to express and manage emotions. Art therapy allows an individual to express feelings that are difficult to put into words through visual arts like painting and drawing. She does journal, and she does like to do quite a lot of artsy things, so I think that genuinely could be helping her. Dance move, drama therapy, and music therapy. I've seen people do music therapy, and that does seem to be helping them cope with a lot of their struggles. So that is quite a positive therapy, in my opinion. Therapeutic communities, meeting regularly with a group or support team. I mean, I don't know whether in the States that's possible. Like people have like BPD group meetings. Something like that could be detrimental or helpful to somebody with BPD. Let me know if anybody is going to BPD group meetings and how that's going, because where I live, that's not really a thing. So I'd be interested to know. Obviously, lifestyle is a part of the recovery. You have to change certain things to help your mentality and try new things to grow. Lifestyle adjustments and self care, physical activity, mindfulness and grounding exercises, distress tolerance skills, and maintaining physical health through regular sleep, balanced diet, avoiding drugs and alcohol that can significantly impact your emotional well being. So, yeah, these are very important things to think. Also, developing a support network, including family, friends, and peer support groups that can help reduce feelings of isolation, and creative outlets like playing music, journaling, and using a self care box with comforting items to provide safe release for difficult emotions. Now, she does journal. She has been journaling for a very long time, and she says that she writes down all of her thoughts and feelings in her journal. So, that is a form of self-care. We know that she has all these box of crafts and creative stuff going on, to help regulate her emotions. She is spending more time with Mama Lynn, and she's going to see her grandmother. So there are definitely signs of improvement in her life, and she's having more positive influences in her life, like her immediate family, rather than like complete strangers she meets on the internet and randomly moves in with. So I feel like at the moment there is signs that she is trying to get herself better, and I think that's a really good thing. But we do also have to remember that she does have a mental health disorder, diagnosed or undiagnosed. Like I say, I've worked with people with BPD for many years, and I definitely see the traits in her, but obviously her traits don't go for everybody with PPD. Like, everybody's completely different, everybody handles it a different way, and everyone has a different approach to healing from it. So this is just specifically nuanced to Amberlynn, this video, like not anybody else with BPD. But yeah, I hope that was a little bit insightful for everybody who didn't really know that much about BPD, or if you did and maybe didn't see the signs in Amberlynn. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would absolutely love to have you here. And thank you to everybody who's already subscribed. I'm now over 100 subscribers, and that's very exciting. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, please leave in the comments anything you like, any response to this video. Is there anything that I haven't mentioned? And you know, what you think about mental health disorders, and yeah, like I said about the group therapy thing, like I would be interested to know how like BPD therapy would work in a group. So yeah, please remember to like and subscribe. I'd love to hear thoughts on the video in the comments, and I will speak to you all in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.